Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavati Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us all. May he nourish us all. May our study be productive and fruitful. And may we work together with peace for one another. Oh, peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So, Vedanta. New faces I see here. Some new faces. Others are very familiar with the ideas of Vedanta. As I tell people nowadays, when I review this system, it's getting simpler and simpler and more and more elegant and very elemental, because that's really what the modern world seeks now, is kind of an elemental position to their spiritual life. They don't want the complexities of dogma. They don't want the complexities of theology and all of this. They want a simple system that speaks to their reason. They can embrace it comfortably, and they don't have to be confronted with contradictory ideas or promises or demands and expectations and dogmas. And they want to just have an open heart and approach spirituality with an open heart. And that's a huge achievement, as we know. It's nice to come to spirituality because that opens our hearts. And in that open heart, we all learn about love and peace, inner peace and strength. Because those are the properties that come when we dedicate ourselves to a higher ideal. But we don't want to be obstructed, you see. We don't want to be obstructed with dogma and authoritarian ideas that come down on us and demand that in order to achieve this inner peace and strength and bliss and love, that sweetness that comes to us. You see, when you do live the spiritual life, you become more and more in tune with the sweetness that's there in nature. Okay? And you embrace that. We want that, but we don't want to have to get to it compromising our intellect. Okay? We don't want to have to come to it compromising our reason. And that's a very, very, very powerful approach. Now, interestingly enough, this is the spirit of modern times. Reasonability. I'm going to give a talk on that in the next lecture. Reason. The very structure, the very fabric of reason. What does it mean to be reasonable? Okay? What does it mean to be reasonable? Why is it when we're reasonable and we observe things, we have a kind of inner satisfaction? A sweetness comes to us even there. Even if the platform or the level of our understanding is limited to the world, secular world, nevertheless, we always feel a little stronger and richer when we come to life around us in a reasonable way. It empowers us. We feel stronger. But in and of itself, reason is not enough, because we remain caught in the world. We need that larger love. We need that ability through our reason to understand that reason is taking us to an underlying truth or spiritual reality that informs reason, that drives reason, that whenever we're reasonable, actually a little bit of that, a particle of that wisdom underlying everything, that larger awareness pops through. Things fall together in our minds and we become more cohesive, more coherent. Our life takes on more meaning. So we're all out there doing that. I will present this formula again and again and again because it's key to this Vedanta in the West. It's key. This idea that minds are coming together, all of ours, in more orderly ways. And as that happens, we become stronger individuals. And this is the core essence of America. And I often talk about it in this way, about America, because we're here. We have a special culture. It is a very distinct special culture. And the one religion in the world that informs this culture magnificently is the Vedic religion of India. Not Hinduism, and I always make a distinction between Hinduism and Vedic spirituality. Very big, big difference. Hinduism is brilliant because it draws from Vedic ideas. But these Vedic ideas are very universal. They apply to everything, literally the whole universe. In other words, if you could find the mechanics of transformation going on in the universe, you have found a universal religion, if it's spiritual in its orientation. So India understood this, and it embraced fervently these Vedic ideas. And then in the course of thousands of years, out gradually emerged Hinduism as we know it today. And Hinduism, again, is a very rich, deep religion filled with enormous insight into the human condition. The only problem is it's cultural, it's historical. It's got a lot of baggage to it, like all religions. All religions carry a lot of baggage from the past. So when you look at the religions, you love parts of them and you hate other parts. So it's true of Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, this, that. You can go up and down, Taoism. They're all great because they speak of a transcendent image, a truth. And they're all evocative in that sense. And they tell us and what they tell us always speaks to our hearts. It speaks to a deeper part of us that craves that transcendence. Because we know when we tap into that, we become much more special. We find a speciality in our lives that just transcends everything else. Finally, we discover the thing that's been driving us. This passion we had when we went to the university as young people. Flowers smell beautiful. The world is rich with possibility. We go and we enter into the university campus and we go there and life is just filled with all of this rich possibility. We mix with other students. We wake up in the morning and we're young and refreshed and we look forward to a day of learning. And it's all legitimate and healthy. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful period of our lives. But after we graduate, then we're faced with another animal, the world. Today, students are all rioting. Okay, let them riot. But one day they're going to have to get out there into the practical world of everyday living. And once we get out into that world, then we have to earn a living. And we have to take on responsibilities. And we have to be challenged not only by the world, but by our own selves. Because the world will challenge us, see. And so we need a formula, a spiritual formula, that gives us the strength to move through this in a whole new way as Americans. India has done it, and it's got this beautiful system, but it's laden in the caste system. Fine, but that's one of the baggages it carries, and you have that in the church too, in the Catholic Church and others. There's a certain baggage that comes along with these traditions. But the old Vedic religion out of which India woke up and went crazy for it has no caste, has nothing to it. There's no boundaries to it. It's a universal process, which I've been describing in former lectures, because the whole thing is the vitalizing presence. Vedic religion, it's vitalizing presence. Okay? It vitalizes everything. You don't have to believe in it or anything. It vitalizes Christianity. It vitalizes Buddhism. It vitalizes all the great religions. Now that's kind of like a threat to a lot of the great traditions who feel they have a monopoly on history and on humankind. But Vedism says nobody has a monopoly on anything. That monopoly is within each one of us. And we all, when we turn for that, and that's why when you join any religion or you go to any religion, they're all fervent and crazy because they're getting results. They're all utterly committed and all very, very fervently believing that they have the way, because they do. Their problem is just that it's not the only way, that everybody has the way. So you go to all these different religions and they do know that they have the way. God has entered into their lives. That sweetness, that peace, that innocence comes into their lives. So they're all passionate about it. But the delusion is thinking that this passion is unique to their religion. So they border themselves off from the surrounding world, because when they step out into this world of heathens, a universe of heathens, then they have to deal with all these crazy people who don't know what they're doing, the poor devils. And really, those devils are just as high in their religions as they are in theirs, see? Because the secret is commitment to this divine truth that underlies everything. Superimpose Jesus on it, that's fine. Superimpose Krishna on it, that's fine. These are beautiful images. India has created a lot of good images, as I'm often saying. Beautiful images. And in the West, we'll embrace them. But as Americans, we also have to embrace our own history. And a big part of our history are the Native Americans. That has to be resurrected in America. That's our animism. See, India took its area of animism and created Hanuman. It created the elephant god, Ganesh. These were brilliant things that rose out of that period in India when it drew from animistic images. But the Vedic image was behind it, the truth. So it empowered and vitalized this, and it gave people the ability to commit to these images, these animistic images, and get transcendent results out of it. Okay? And this comes down to today. So this is true of the Native Americans too. And I think one of the big responsibilities we'll have as a movement here in America is to resurrect Native American animism in the West and recognize just how beautiful it is and how much it has to offer the world, so that they can restore themselves to their own power, because Vedism is a religion of empowerment, self-empowerment, you see, and you draw from the divine from this empowerment through your own images. Nobody touches you. Nobody has a right to touch you, because it's your own thing, see. But we all hold hands in love and affection because we're all opening out into the same reality. We're all making adjustments, redefining our lives in light of this mysterious element we call religion in our lives, but it always works. If we're really committed, there is unearthings, little openings, moments when we suddenly find ourselves centered in an ultimate meaning. And we know it. We know it. And if we're Christians, we go around with a cross and we say, this is the way. And if we're Hindus, we say, Krishna is the way. They're a little more liberal in India and wiser. But even there, they have their problems, and people will get fanatically caught up in different ways. And so all the religions insist that. The beautiful thing of this Vedic religion is that it has no boundaries. There's this underlying reality, and if you commit, I don't care if it's the Eightfold Path or prayer to Christ, or whatever it may be that you're doing as a discipline, it's going to open your mind up to that underlying reality. Now, this is what Americans want to hear. India wanted to hear it, and it embraced it. But now it has to reach out, this theme has to reach out to the whole planet. Everybody has to be honored. All religions have to be excitedly embraced. And we have to see the vitality in those religions and embrace them on our own terms in a movement that expands out. In a movement that honors everything so that we can walk peacefully and with love and look anybody in the eye and say, I'm Vedic in my approach. And then hand them a book that is not controversial at all. It's going to open their mind. Either that or they're going to go through a period of utter confusion, of course. But then at time we'll see, there's a theory, and I think we've all heard of the 100th monkey. And it's a beautiful concept, because if we could, and it's going to happen. See, this is your religion. America is a Vedic religion country. We believe it. Veda means knowledge. Our Vedas are our libraries. The ancient Vedas of India were the libraries of India that were truths. So this is going to be something that everybody in this country is going to wake up to. And with the 100th monkey, it takes, well, if you can get 1%, of Americans. That's 3 million people, around 3 million people. My God, if you get 3 million people, and you're all very creative, you're all terribly creative. And once you get the basic theme of Vedanta and start really pushing it in the exciting, because every time there's a new religion in the world goes crazy. It breaks up, it becomes crazy, and it really embraces it. When Christianity stepped into Europe and they gave up paganism, they just embraced this Christianity in time with great enthusiasm because it honored everybody and it gave a kind of unity to the time. So today we need this kind of a love and an openness that embraces the world so that we can fearlessly go out into the world and push it so that 100th monkey, 1%, when it gets 10%, it's finished. Boom, the whole country becomes saturated with the ideas. Vivekananda is our spiritual father. And I don't like to push him because a lot of people tell me, why do you push him? Why not push the principles? It's true, but without Vivekananda, if you have an opportunity to study the complete works, and you just ignore that he was dealing with the world 100 years ago, so he's trying to address issues that were relevant to the world then, but he gave us a message that I'm speaking about. This is all I'm speaking about. It's Vivekananda. I speak with authority because of this man. So if you read his complete works and get to those lectures in the West, you'll be stunned and amazed at the magnitude of this man and his mind, but how he honored this country and our Constitution. See, this is culture. Every religion has a culture. Every religion has a society, and the individuals in that society, and then the mindset. It's always this, it's a Ken Wilberian thing, those of you who know Ken Wilber, the 4 quadrants, and you always end up in those 4 areas. So you see a social system out there, you have their culture that underlies it, the individuals, and then their own makeup as individuals physically, the behavior of the society. It's always the same thing. But what this does, once that hundreds of monkey all of them start waking up, suddenly it's the American religion. You are Vedic. Vedic means you believe in knowledge and the evolution of knowledge. You passionately believe that if you go to a university and study the laws presented there, you are going to open up and become wiser. That's Vedism. Okay. And that's what all of us are nowadays in the modern world, and it's going all over the planet. What distinguishes this world from other republics is this open flexibility that's characteristic of America. And we have to maintain this. We can't throw it down the drain. We're going through a political confusion right now, trying to redefine ourselves. It's healthy. A lot of people say, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative. And both are right according to this Vedic movement as it centers itself, as the feminine and the masculine keep readapting themselves in the human, and we find our formula always in the center. America is a centrist country, really. You go off to either side and you get communism or you get fascism, as I often say. So we're Vedic. We value truth. That's where we find our strength. And we've discarded the mythic parts of all religions because of that. See? We've discarded it all. So let me read a little of Vivekananda, what he said about this. Because we're doing now at this stage in our development is breaking the ground, turning the soil of our modern world, redefining the soil of our modern world. And America will be the exponent of this, the country that will push it out into the globe. Hinduism could do it, but you see it's rooted in the past, like all other religions. But here we don't have a religion. We're just a Vedic civilization. We love knowledge. We value it. See? And what Vedanta does with Patanjali and Kapila and Shankaracharya and a number of brilliant, incisive thinkers in India, they were able to decipher out how this Vedanta works intellectually. So we have a model that works for the world and the planet, and especially America, which is now drifting. We're drifting. And we're headed, as I always say, into hedonism, as I've said in other lectures. We're becoming a hedonistic society. We don't have that center of gravity anymore. We need to be able to walk into temples where all the religions are represented. And this guy here, he's a subject in himself, and I often point to him from time. He's the man who said it's all legitimate. And he would fall into a samadhi. In other words, his mind would rearrange itself, and he would open out into the meanings of the different religions. And he'd say, boy, that works. That's a legitimate resource. And he did that with all the religions that he knew at the time in the world. And because of that, he was a genuine mystic of the highest order. So we honor him as the exemplar of a place where you can walk in and you will be struck by the beauty. And that's up to you. It's not going to be up to me, because a lot of you are artists and all sorts of skills you have. But you're going to be able to walk into these temples, and they should be on every street corner like Christianity used to be. See? Like Christianity used to be. It is. But it's all kind of folding. It's kind of folding and dying in a way. But this is not an insult or a denial of Christianity. It affirms Christianity. And if you go in there as a full-on Christian, the only difference is you're going to honor all other religions too. Know that the metaphor you hold on to, the images you hold on to, are yours. And that's special to you. And that is what you honor. But you also see Taoism over there in another shrine. You also see other religions throughout. But you're coming to it because in the front there's a universal shrine there of honoring the whole globe, the planet, as well as the universe. That's Vedism. Okay. That's Vedism. So you go in there and your heart is healed, soothed, strengthened. Not because of what I'm saying here, but because all of you start making your contributions, coming together and building these temples. And once they start to flourish in this country, the country will start finding its center again and its moral gravity again, which we've lost. We don't have a moral gravity. Quite understandable. Rome was falling, collapsing all over. The pagan gods no longer had answers to their problems. And this idea of Christ and love, universal love, came in, and suddenly they were able to resurrect themselves, and monasteries flourished and grew all over Europe. This happened in China, going to Japan too. Japan gradually embraced the whole idea of Buddhism, and boom, in their own way, and boom, it flourished all over Japan. These things happen very quickly once the 100th monkey is reached. Boom, the whole thing explodes. And suddenly everybody is doing it because it heals, it transforms, and in this case, being Vedic, it honors your intellect. It doesn't ask you to be stupid. It doesn't say stupid. Believe in this. We have the answers. No, none of that anymore. We're all honored, and we have that strength and wisdom within us. See? And if you could do that, if you could start seeing it, and that's the responsibility of this community too, and all of them that are going to start coming up, the responsibility to just take control over it and see how you can reanalyze this to speak to your relatives, to your friends, to the people in your communities, so that it starts resurrecting people all over the country. So that when you walk down a street and you have a book of Vivekananda in your hands, chosen by us, the lectures that speak to us, you can look a man or a woman right in the eye and say, this is what I believe in. Can't do it right now because we haven't gotten to that missionary movement yet. But once that, they did it in the Bhaktivedanta, in the Hare Krishna, they went into a missionary mode. They did it in SRF and Paramahamsa Yogananda. We have to move into that missionary mode. And you'll walk down any street and pass out this thing, and you'll look a person right in the eye and say, there's a Temple Universal right around the corner, or down the street. And you go there and just see what you think. And everybody there is open-hearted, wise, highly educated, fearless in the way they come to the world, because they know they're all attuned to this underlying Upanishadic idea that the divine is everywhere, within everything. That's a whole study I'll go into later on, epistemology, how the mind unfolds. Say, how it unfolds. What's going on how do we perceive? What's the method of knowledge? You go to a scientific, you go to university, and they have their epistemologies. They have mathematical epistemology. You want to be educated as a professor or as a medical person, somebody in the medical field. There's an epistemology. There are boundaries to the knowledge. That's all epistemology means. There are boundaries to the knowledge there and how that knowledge unfolds. And if you can master it, you have samadhis in that, and you keep organizing it, you become a good physician. Everybody comes to your door, pounding on the door, please help us, because you have so much wisdom around that area. But what this does, the Vedanta does, is just take it deeper and deeper and deeper, and keeps on with this idea of wisdom and discovery, but showing that what was driving this medical person, was the divine. The reason that she or he went to the university and committed themselves to medicine and came out the other end was because they genuinely wanted to help other people, which eventually they lose interest in because the world is brutal and they have no ideal. Many of them are bright enough not to embrace any particular religion, oftentimes, and they're lost. But if they turn to a Vedic environment, they'll find that it's totally in conjunction with their own practices. Okay? And their heart can remain open. That's the secret. That's the secret to wisdom, keeping your heart open all the time. They say count to 10 before you do anything. Breathe deeply, count to 10. Oh, I just want to get in. Breathe gently. We all suffer from all this stuff. Breathe gently. You will fail. Vivekananda said, a person with an image, with an ideal, the person without an ideal will fail 1,000 times. A person with an ideal will fail 100 times. See, you're going to fail, but you're going to come back to the truth more and more, and you're going to reestablish yourself in it. And there's a psychology to that, how that goes down into the very core of your being, into the deeper chakras, and it starts changing you without your even knowing it. So every time you pull away and stop doing what you were doing, the anger, and investing energy in anger instead in love, or just detachment. Often we can't love. I'm not going to love that person. I don't like that person. Okay, that's fine. Just pull away and don't think of them. And think of something else. I love trees. Let me go out in the garden and work in the garden. Get back into that love. I know my anger is there, and I know it's wrong. I'm really upset with that person. But what was it? There was a guy I saw this on television the other day. He was in the Second World War, and what he learned, because he survived it was some of the worst episodes in the war. He survived this. He comes out and he says, one thing I learned there, he says, if you can't change things, don't worry about it. If you can't change, and this was a man he was in his 90s, you see. This really sunk in deeply into his Manipura chakra. Okay, that's just one of our mechanisms. Whenever you get angry and upset, it's because it's down in here. You're upset. It's not up here. Don't be fooled. The mind is the whole structure of the body. So it's down in here, and we get very upset and very angry. So he realized, I'm not going to indulge in anger or in fear or any of these things. What's not in favor, it's not in favor of my life. Just go along with what is, and don't take it so. If you can't change it, don't worry about it. It's a wonderful practice. So it's always this centering. It's always coming to a place where we're in control of our lives. That's very Vedic. It's very Vedic. See, pratyahara dharana dhyana. It's pulling away and centering yourself. I don't care what you use to center yourself with. If it's a mandala, if it's a yantra, if it's a repetition of the name, a mantra, if it's prayer, it doesn't matter what it is. Center. Keep the heart open, because there is where your strength lies. That's where your strength is growing. That's where you're moving in the direction of Krishna, who could dance with humanity with an open heart, or Christ, or Buddha. It's your strength that you're developing. You're going to be Christ-like, Buddha-like, see? That's what you want. So it's a long road, and that's why you need communities, and that's why I'm very passionate about communities, Vedic communities, where we all nurture each other. Brahmavidyananda can't nurture everybody. That's insane. See, it's insane. You nurture others. You're full of wisdom yourselves, great deal of wisdom. So it's you who nurture others. It's a community of believers, like always, but now it's a believer that is open to everything. We have no agenda. We're not out here to change the world. We will change the world, but not by authoritarian means, see. We'll change it just with an open heart, a loving heart. Not because Christ said so, but because you're saying so, out of the love of your own heart. And you let everything flourish around you. That's Vedic. That's the energizing, vitalizing presence of Vedic spirituality in the world. It's always been going on. The whole evolution of nature has been nothing but an expression of this Vedic spirituality as it energizes creation. And I'll go into that in other lectures perhaps, but it's a simple theme I have. See, it's a very simple theme, but it's a theme based on strength, fearlessness, healing, peace, but more than anything else for Americans, I would say, inner strength, manliness, womanliness, see? Being real adults. Nobody wants to be weak, especially here. We're very clear about that, and existentially we are weak right now, so we're turning to all sorts of drugs and whatnot. Understandable, quite understandable. Nothing evil about it. We're turning to these things because we have no other resources. So but there should be a resource, places, and if we don't do this, we're hurting not only ourselves, the world, but ourselves. We're hurting ourselves. There has to be this new generosity in this movement that starts really speaking to the people and really honoring their potential to embody this, share it, grow it, grow the thing. You all have that ability. It's not me. We monks at this present time are we just stimulate. We're just stimulating the ideas into the society. We're catalysts, that's all. Can't do much more than that until it wakes up. See? Until you all wake up. And I can't say you can bring people here all the time. You should, and it should be, but it's not really Americana yet. It ain't Americana yet. Ramakrishna is very Americana because he's like us. See, his heart was open to everything. He's an incarnation as Christ. The Europeans found, he's one of us. This new love, this new level of love, the Europeans embraced because they found a solution to their paganism. We're the good guys on this side of the hill and you're the bad guys over there. And we're going to take out our swords and hunt you down and kill you because you don't worship our pagan god. That got old. That got painfully old. They didn't want to do it. We can show it in our movies today. Everybody running around with swords and beating on each other. But really, that's not that's painful. And these are actors. And a lot of CGI, computer-generated images. It's a lot of baloney. It's painful. The soul contracts. Nobody wants to die in misery. That's why in Japan they were so cool. At least if you're a samurai fighter, you die in peace. You come to every war, any situation in war, and you fight with an open heart. And so one samurai fighter was there. He was going to fight. And he was a very competent one, a fearless one. And he laid down his sword and walked away. And they asked him why. Now, Japan at one time had a real genius in the spiritual realm. It still does, probably to some degree, but it's being overwhelmed by the modern world, too, like everybody. So he laid down his sword and walked away, and they said, why did you do that? He says, I was coming to this fight in anger. Doesn't work. Okay? His heart had to remain open, and being a master samurai, he knew that if he came to it with a closed heart full of anger, he wasn't living up to the ideal. Okay? So this is what our Vedic spirituality. Let me read from Vivekananda here. And this is just a little bit of what this man gave to us, just a tiny small smidgen. A clear distinction is made between two sets of truths. The one set is that which abides forever, which is what we've been talking about. Being built upon the nature of man, the nature of the soul's relationship to God, the nature of God, perfection, and so on. There is also the principles of cosmology, of the infinitude of creation. What's beautiful about it is he works this stuff out in his teachings, see? Or more correctly speaking, projection. We're in a space-time continuum. I'll read that at the end. Einstein talks about it himself. We're seeing each other in a distortion. There's a fundamental repression and projection that begins at the very beginning, and it sets up the whole psychology of the universe. See? So, projection, the wonderful law of cyclical precession, and so on. These are the eternal principles founded upon the universal laws in nature. So here was this big giant mind of Vivekananda presenting these big giant ideas. That's all he wanted to present. He said the other set comprises the minor laws, which guided the workings of everyday life. These minor laws are changing all the time. See, these are cultures. This is where Europe was at one time Christian and very deeply embedded in it, and now it's shifting out. Same with Asia and other parts of the world. They're shifting out of their traditional religions. So, changing all the time. Customs of one age, of one yuga, have not been the customs of another. And as yuga comes, as yuga comes after yuga, they will still have to change. Okay? We're changing. Great rishis, seers, rishi means drish, to see. Great rishis will appear and lead us to customs and manners that are suited to new environments. Okay? So he distinguishes between what I've been talking about here, and that's how I got these ideas. Where else? You see, from the big Vivekananda, but we're sharing it. It'll come out of us too. We don't need to just turn to him. It comes out of all of us because we know it. So there's the primal laws, and then there's secondary laws that are shifting and changing according to the times and the evolution of nature and societies and cultures. The whole thing is shifting in that way. So this is our age, which is Vedic. It's passionate. This vitalizing presence of Vedic religion or spirituality. There's no end to this puppy. It can do all sorts of things because it's been worked out all over the world. We've already got the mystics of the world, and they're all saying it. There's a lot of beautiful quotes all over the place. We have images all over the place. We have methods of worship. India has a lot of these methods, but you have it all over the world, and it has to be very neutral and open to everything. See, then we're going to have a civilization, a society. Vivekananda said the unique quality about India, it's immortal. As long as India continues to embrace its Vedic ideas of universality and commit to those, it's immortal. It's an immortal society. But then he turned to Europe and the rest of the world, and he said, look at the world. Civilizations, cultures, colonial civilizations, they come, they colonize, and they go. They come and they go. So you see Spain, you see England, you see Rome. You can go down a whole host of cultures and civilizations that come and go. And we will be the same unless we embrace this Vedic religion and make the central, pivotal part of America Vedic. Then we're immortal. We'll take that principle that works so beautifully in India out to a new level, to embrace the planet itself. And America will find its new identity, its abiding identity. We can't do it. We're not colonial in the traditional sense of the word anymore, but we can't do it through violence and war. We have to go through this in order to address things. But that's not our ultimate aim as a culture. Our ultimate aim should be spiritual. That should be the core thing. And the only enduring spirituality is Vedic. Nothing else. All others are challenged because they're historical. They're rooted in history. So they don't have that abiding quality to them. Like I say in future lectures, next one I think I've got assigned is reasonableness. What does it mean to be reasonable? Okay? It all fits in a very simple, elegant way. We never really study this stuff. We never really give it much thought. But being reasonable is something we're always doing, of course, we know that, but we don't know quite how it works. So, a Vedic age, our modern world, the philosophical sophistications of India, as I was saying, at this global world juncture, there's this need for because you see, we have the external sciences. The whole world is feeling the power and momentum of the external sciences. We honor them. We can't give them up. And it's all based on rationality. It's all based on empirical data. Vedic spirituality is completely empirical. Completely. When I tell you that whenever you reach out into the world with an open heart and look at new things and embrace new ideas, and then there's a shifting in your mind and you become wider and stronger and wiser, that's empirical. It's an internal form of empirical quality, but it's experiential. It's something we all know happens. Now that's a basic Vedic formula. See? So the modern world of empiricism has to go to the subtle and the causal level and see how this empirical theme runs throughout the whole drift of the human constitution. Okay? And it speaks to everything. So psychology is very empirical in that it produces results that we know if we practice certain disciplines that they will produce peace and healing in our lives. So that's the empiricality of the modern world. And the sophistications, the philosophical sophistications of India play right into this Vedic theme. Okay? So they're transforming. The sciences are transforming, impacting our everyday life. Cell phones, iPads, the internet, just a little bit of a global humanity is coming. But this globalism has to need this new basis. It needs this desperately. And like I say, only Americans can walk through the world with a kind of knowledge. We have that gift. It's just the way it is. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with the culture of our founding fathers. How they set this up so that we freed up the psyche of the collective and allowed it to manifest this potential, this Vedic potential. But it's been through the secular world. Now we just have to deepen it and reveal the driving force behind our secular genius here in America. This enormous ability to create here in the West. Why? Why do we have it? What was it that was unleashed in America that drove us into this enormous creativity of a capitalist society, which can be good if it's held in check with morality. If it isn't, then it's abusive. See, none of these things are bad. The curious thing is even communism, extreme communism, is good if the people are moral. But people aren't moral. And so, like any system, socialism, communism, capitalism, though, is very creative because it throws the ingenuity onto the individual. And the individual then creates, and you have this enormous, spontaneous manifestation of creativity everywhere. But if there's a moral fabric, it all works. The problem is now we pull the kingpin out of the moral fabric of the world, and so everything has gone down into debauchery of a sort. Okay? The whole world is. Look at Venezuela. God bless Venezuela. The largest oil supply in the whole planet. Bigger than Saudi Arabia. I don't know the whole planet, but larger than Saudi Arabia. And they're in a collapse, social collapse, because they don't have that moral fabric too. See, and abusive authoritarians slip into power in the guise of socialism, and the people don't have any food. And they're rioting, understandably, in the streets. So you see how this plays in. This idea of strength plays into Vedanta. See? And how inner strength is emphasized, the moral strength is emphasized, re-emphasized once again. And once that becomes in play, then America will restore itself. We'll be motivated. Not motivated because we're good. We want to be good people. You know, that's death. That's death. Goody people. No. Because we want to be strong. We want to be strong. We want to be strong. We want to be individuals. We want to be able to walk through life with our heads held up high. Everybody of every race, knowing that that same power resides within everybody, and everybody has the same potential creativity. Now you have a civilization of real men and women, and an adult civilization. But it doesn't discard, doesn't deny, doesn't throw away our reasoning processes. And I'll talk about that next month. Apparently I'm speaking here. So, well, it's very simple. The whole thing is very, very simple. It's not complicated, this Vedic spirituality. It's very simple. One divine reality, it's opening up within everything. If you understand the Sushumna and the chakras and all of that, you can explain how it works and how the big thing in the world now is, the Kundalini power. Don't believe me. Dangerous. Kundalini, let's resurrect the Kundalini power. Come into our class and we're going to arouse your Kundalini power. And you're going to vitalize all of your chakras. You could only vitalize the chakras by converting Kundalini power into Ojas, the energy of awareness, the energy of the divine. And that's by holding larger laws, embracing larger truths. Then when your mind opens up, it stays open. You go to some of these Kundalini classes, and they wake you up, and you go through it, and it's good stuff. I'm not poo-pooing it. I mean, I'm a little careless at times. And I apologize. But I don't mean it as an affront, but it's very dangerous. When the people are told that by waking up their Kundalini, your Kundalini is already awake. Don't worry about it. Our Kundalinis are already crazy, half crazy and insane. So that's not going to, you need to heal and transform the Kundalini energy into Ojas, into the energy of balance and wisdom. And so there's a lot of confusion out there about all this stuff. Okay? And this is part of the game, this whole thing of the play of these forces and integrating them. See, I mean, really, it's not difficult, Vedic spirituality. And once you get a hang of it, you go crazy over it. Because you can continue to be who you are, but you understand now why it's working, your spiritual life. If you can live a moral life over and over again, and you're going to fail, tell us all about it. The mind resists change. You're going to fail again and again, but 100 times they're going to fail who don't know, 10 times you're going to fail. And you're going to come back to the truth. And you're going to continue to feed into your own mind this struggle to affirm the truth. And it's going to pay off down the road. For a long time, you'll be a failure. Fine. But you need a community of failures. We're all failures. We're all struggling to broaden out. But then every once in a while, somebody will come over and share with you, it's happened to me. And you see it in their lives. They've changed, Now, she's changed, really changed. She's worshiping Taoism. I mean, that's her image. She draws from those sources to a large degree. I'm into Krishna or whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. But we both have the same language. These are just images we've been using in order to center ourselves. See? And that was his message. That was Ramakrishna's message. His message wasn't worship me. Fine if you worship him. That's great. But that's not going to pull in a whole civilization. People don't want to do that. They want to do what they do. And that's what he said. Do what you do. That's what Vivekananda says. Do what you do. We have no hidden agenda here. There's no hidden agenda. There seems to be one right now, I say, and I'm a culprit, that's culpable. I think our agenda is to push Ramakrishnaism, okay? And I'm not against Ramakrishna, I'm for it. I meditate on him regularly. He's cool. But that doesn't mean everybody has to fall into that little camp right now. I think in time the world will turn to him as a resource. But people have to do it on their own terms. You can't force them. They have to do it. That has to wake up within humanity. And you all have to be able to define this very strange phenomenon in a way that speaks to the globe. You have to do it. It can't be done by just superimposing him on an institution like they're doing with Christianity. It's just another, and I'm saying this cautiously, but seriously, it's another cult. Like Christianity is a cult. Now that I know I'm touching a lot of raw nerves here. But it's not against him, because that isn't how we can understand this man. We understand him in his universality. Then he starts making sense. Then we could say, this guy is cool. He's wonderful. He's magnificent. I love him. But you've got to put him within context. If you take him out of context and have an agenda, then it gets cuckoo and nobody cares about it. They walk away. So it has to be the people that decide this. You have to decide it. It's an American phenomenon, this Vedism. Let me read a little something, because it's a global age, channeling its vitality into the spiritual. That's what needs to be done. Here's Alfred North Whitehead. The art of progress is to preserve order. This is a little, it makes your brain a little cuckoo, but it's good stuff. The art of progress is to preserve order amidst change. Where's the order in our change right now? Where is the order going on in all the change that's taking place? We don't have it. We're throwing away order more and more. But he says to preserve order amidst change and to preserve change amidst order. Let things change, but keep the order. See, there has to be order, a new level of order that answers our age, and we have to allow we have to allow this change to occur and encourage it and let it occur. And don't be afraid of it. And don't set on it. And don't hold Ramakrishna and Vivekananda in a small box. Can't do it. Can't do it. Is universal religion, when I give that, Vivekananda made it clear, very clear. You cannot hold religion in a box anymore. And he was very firm about all of this stuff. We're coming to an end here. And what I wanted to do is, here's a quote from the Gita. Verily, there exists no purifier on earth equal to knowledge. Every time you know things, it purifies your mind. Ultimate knowledge is what Krishna is talking about here. But every time there's a relative knowledge, it purifies your mind. You come back to the world stronger and wiser. So verily there exists no pacifiers on earth equal to knowledge. A person who becomes perfect in yoga, see, you're all yoga-ing. You're always pulling back and refocusing and channeling your life in a wiser and bigger way. But a person who becomes perfect in this process, yoga, finds it within himself in the course of time. You'll find the truth within yourself. It'll dawn upon you more and more. Listen, it's all over the place. It's big time in all the major religions. It's just that here we're not speaking openly about it and freely. But anyway, here's a little of the monks get to do this. It's nonsense. You are you are the ones that if you share, monks are necessary, they're a part of the game probably, but it's you share your joy and the changes that have taken place in your lives. That's where it's very important. Here's Einstein. A human being is part of a whole called by us the universe, a part limited in space and time. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separate from the rest. A kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affections for a few people near us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circles of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. That's Einstein. Beautiful stuff. Reality is merely an illusion, a very persistent one. Thank you. Thank you. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityurmamamritam Gamaya, Avirabir Moedi Rudra Yakte Dakshinamamukam Tenamam Painityam. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourselves, and evermore protect us with thy sweet, compassionate face. Oh, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all living things.